Pedro Reyes is a Mexican artist who is taking the power of transformation to a whole new level. Using metal from weapons confiscated from the streets and criminal gangs, he's created a collection of mechanized musical instruments that are now being played in concerts. Reyes hopes the physical transformation of these weapons will also serve as an inspiration for a social transformation that will end the glamorized image of guns and violence in Mexican society.
The main reason why people say we ought to have guns is to protect themselves. Weapons are the rule of fear, and music is the opposite, it's the rule of trust. Well, my name is Pedro Reyes. I am an artist living in Mexico City, and I've been doing sculpture for over 10 years. The first project I made with guns was called Palas por Pistolas, which consisted in a campaign organized in the city of Culiacan in west of Mexico. It was an initiative that was promoted by the Botanical Garden in Culiacan, where we made a call for the population to bring their weapons in exchange for, like electric appliances. Once I get the metal parts, they cannot be used as guns anymore. Like they have rendered useless by the military. And it's like a very intensive process where they have to mess with it with the torch and, like with the saw and cutting them into parts. It's really good steel, so you have to really spend a lot of time to render a gun useless. But the nice thing is that we broke the kind of local record for recollection of guns. And in 2008, we got 1,527 guns. And then the metal was taken to a foundry and it was melted. And with that metal, 1,500 shovels were made. And the idea was for every gun now there's a shovel, and with every shovel we plant a tree. So we've been planting 1,500 trees all over the world. And it's basically the idea of turning an agent of death into an agent of life. That was the first artwork that I made with this kind of material. And it was then in 2012 that I got a call from the government, because they had learned about this thing that we did in Culiacan, and they told me that in Ciudad Juárez, which is a city that has been very badly affected by gun violence and murders, etc., they were planning to do public destruction of weapons. These were not weapons that were voluntarily donated, but weapons that were sized to criminal groups. So they asked me if I wanted to keep the metal, and I said that yes, but instead of doing shovels, I wanted to do musical instruments.
Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me dio dos luceros que cuando los abro.
Like the curve elements of the charges from AK-47 may become like the body of a bass guitar, and then, like just by rearranging the guns you find shapes. But also, what is most important in this is where, like all my musician friends that help me are really instrumental. For instance, you cut the barrel of a shotgun, and depending on the different length, you may get a different note. A musician may hear the sound and say, okay, this is an A, this is a B, this is a C. So arranging those and finding how they create like a kind of music scale is like a revelation, because suddenly something that was just a pile of metal starts to become music. It's like carving out that part and making something entirely different out of that metal. There's all kind of instruments. There's wind instruments, string instruments, percussion. There's certain limitations to what you can do with metal because you don't have like a kind of resonance of wood, etc. So we have to work with pickups sometimes. So most of the instruments are electric. It's surprising that these very eerie and grotesque, almost grotesque instruments may produce very sweet music. It's a transformation of, like at several levels. One is the physical level of a gun made into a musical instrument. But then, like the other transformation is, let's say, like the psychological transformation of your darkest side of nature into the opposite. Like music is the opposite of war. You win someone over not by the force, but by your talent or by your charisma or by, the love that you put into the music. And that's, totally the opposite process. So the third level is a social level. So I believe that there's like a kind of a social sculpture that happens simultaneously with the physical transformation of the metal. My hope would be that people in other places do similar initiatives where guns are made into other objects or musical instruments or just like whatever can be done to remove weapons from circulation and also to kind of change your perception of guns. I think that the way that they're portrayed as something sexy and as something cool is something that has to change. The art is a weapon. What I'm trying to do is to produce culture and what's the agency that culture has to change our perception of things. I believe that art has potential to change how we see the world.
That's it for this week. Join the conversation with us on social media. We are CCTV America on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.